At times, life falls into place perfectly, other times, it doesn't. The worst is when life shows you the ideal scenario but delivers something far from it, and you're caught off guard. When I proposed to Sapi, she agreed immediately, and things moved quickly. We started looking for a house and found one neither of us could resist. It was larger than we had hoped for within our budget, or perhaps just slightly above it. However, the previous owners, having divorced, were eager to sell and split the proceeds, so the house was priced below market value. I still had reservations about stretching beyond our means, but Sapi gave me her pleading look, a look I had no defense against. The house was livable but required some work. The living room and second bedroom needed decoration, and the second bedroom required plastering repairs. However, I was confident I could handle it. Sapi hated the hallway decor, so that was bumped to the bottom of the to-do list. The silver lining was that all these improvements would increase the house's value more than they cost to make. I ran a small graphic design business at the time, with 2 employees. We also took on website design and marketing support. Things were going well until one of my more experienced employees left to go freelance. Some clients followed him, but rather than being upset, I wished him the best. After all, it was how I had started my own business. This opened up the possibility of moving the office into the house's larger extension. The business would save on office rent, and I could handle the electrical work myself. If a meeting room was ever needed, we could rent one or meet clients at their locations. My remaining employee, Susanna, was quiet but reliable. When I gave her a task, I knew she'd get it right quickly. Initially, she didn't offer design ideas or suggestions, and I wondered if she had any, or if they simply weren't good enough to share. However, she began offering design suggestions more confidently. She was no longer hesitant, and not being the junior employee seemed to have boosted her self-assurance. She wouldn't mind being relocated from a town center office to the house's extension. In fact, she saw it as an opportunity for growth. By this point, the wedding plans were coming together smoothly. We had a new house, the business situation had worked out, and the financial strain of the house had eased. As every groom knows, the final hurdle was to ensure my future mother-in-law approved of me as a husband for her only daughter. That would be trickier. Sapi, being an only child, had that special relationship with her mother that can sometimes be a bit possessive. But I managed to handle that situation, and there was definitely no negative energy from her mother, Susan. With everything seemingly in order, this was where my so-called golden touch failed me, leaving me with a long list of things I should have done but didn't. The wedding itself went smoothly, and Susan didn't seem to interfere, although perhaps Sapi had done a good job of ensuring her parents only handled what they needed to. I should have responded when Susan complained that I wasn't helping Sapi with the household chores. I was managing a full-time job, plus all the decorating, but I didn't say anything. Sapi had always been her mother's princess, so things like painting and wallpapering weren't in her skill set, but that wasn't her fault. I should have pointed out when Susan said that Sapi was overwhelmed at work and needed help that Sapi's husband owned the company, and her role there was vague, but I didn't. I should have told Susan that it wasn't fair to keep things from me when I learned that Sapi hadn't sold her flat because she didn't actually own it. She'd simply moved out of one that belonged to her father's company, and her contribution to the house deposit was a gift from her parents, but I didn't. I should have told Susan that the pet names Sapi and I had for each other were none of her concern when she asked me not to call her daughter Katya, stressing the second syllable, as she thought it made her sound like a Russian prostitute. I did respond to that, but I made it worse by saying something sarcastic about her knowledge of East European naming trends, which only put me in worse standing with Susan. I should have noticed Susan's lack of humor earlier, but I didn't. I should have told her that Susanna and I could handle the admin when the business started picking up again and didn't need her help with the mini office, but I didn't. I should have turned down Susan's offer when I ran out of clean underwear, and she just happened to have a spare pair I could borrow. They were plain white cotton with a pale pink lace waistband, and since no one would notice, I didn't protest. I should have refused Susan's help and told her not to make something out of nothing when she had an inexplicable outburst about something I supposedly said that was sexist. I'm sure it wasn't true, but I didn't. I should have stood my ground when Susan insisted I wear a pink bra, matching knickers, a violet blouse, a black skirt, and barely black tights, but I didn't. I can't even explain how she convinced me to do it, armed only with an endless stream of verbal criticism. I should have physically resisted when Susan grabbed my ear and dragged me into the office to sit there, dressed in the outfit, in front of Susanna, who was just as uncomfortable as I was. But we just sat there, working in awkward silence. I should have ignored Susan every time she called me Patra, stressing the second syllable. This was another instance where I tried to stop it, but Susan kept using the name Patrick. She kept telling me she would handle this or that around the office and house, things she knew I wouldn't want done. I had to act to prevent those things from happening. I shouldn't have simply stayed silent the next day when Susan insisted on adding makeup after she'd told me to wear the same bra and knickers, but with black opaque tights and a short sleeve, bright blue knee-length dress, paired with ballerina flats. These shoes had never been worn in the house before, but I didn't say anything, and just walked into the office on my own. I should have spoken up after Susanna styled my hair in a more feminine way, using spare hair clips and a barrette, following Susan's instructions. I protested to Susanna, but she said it was Susan's request, so I let her finish to avoid causing trouble. Of course, I never ended up challenging Susan about it. Susanna mentioned that her sister had similar length hair, and she was used to helping her achieve a feminine look. I should have told Susanna not to follow Susan's direct orders, but I didn't. Likely, I would have faced consequences either way, but maybe not in front of Susanna in the office. Susanna looked just as embarrassed by the situation as I did. I should have changed before Soppy came home from work, but I didn't. Susan had left an hour before, but I was worried Susanna might tell Soppy if I changed into my male clothes without permission. I should have insisted that Soppy hear my side of the story instead of just letting her yell at me, but I didn't. After she finished, the atmosphere was too cold for me to make excuses, especially since, given the circumstances, my excuses weren't very strong. I should have turned down the satin nightdress Soppy bought for me to wear to bed, but I didn't. By then, her anger had cooled, and she gave me that pleading look, saying, "Oh, come on, Petra." Secretly, I was glad I did wear it because it felt really nice. I should have pointed out that there were other options, like wearing my own clothes, when Soppy insisted I wear the skirt and blouse she bought for me for work. She told me it was that or her school uniform, so I wore the skirt and blouse. I should have refused when Susan suggested I shave my legs and reduce other body hair, but her argument that wearing hosiery would feel better convinced me, so I didn't decline. She was right, and it made the satin nightdress feel even better. There's just one thing left on my to-do list, finding a way to get out of this situation I've dug myself into. Right now, I'm at a loss for ideas, and I don't necessarily want to give up everything that's come my way recently. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel.